Anxiety. Let's talk about that. So what do we mean when we talk about anxiety? So we've all had those moments, the pit of the stomach churning moments, the seeds of doubt in the back of your mind where you start to question things. That's all related to anxiety, and anxiety is most commonly brought about in stressful situations where we don't necessarily know how to manage our emotions and how to cope. So we worry about things and we stress ourselves out, for lack of a better word. It's difficult to cope with anxiety. Now, over the past day or so, I have posted a couple of images on Instagram, and if you want to give me a follow on my Instagram, the handle is somewhere up here, so give that account a follow. And while you're at it, why not give a like to this video and click the subscribe button? That would be awesome and would help me out considerably. But back to the topic. So I posted out recently over the last few days about how I feel when my anxiety creeps up on me and how I deal with it. And the answer to how I deal with it, not very well, as I've come to learn. I will block something out as much as I can. Anything that causes me a little bit of stress that I don't have an answer to solve immediately, away it goes, shoved in a closet somewhere, and I'll deal with it at another point. Mistake number one of many. I'm not going to go into them all in this video, but mistake number one of many. It's just a fact. I don't deal very well with my emotions, which will bring me on to points later in this video. What I do is I ponder, and then I forget the closet, shove it away. But eventually that builds up. And the way I described it in one of my images, having MS leads to a lot of anxiety because MS comes with its own troubles. It comes with hazing, in particular, of the mind. It makes me forgetful. It changes the way I act and almost makes me unrecognisable to myself, let alone what I'm like to other people. But I become unrecognisable to me, and that causes a great deal of anxiety. And my mind plays on it. My mind spins all these different scenarios. And the way I describe it is that it's like a tree growing from the stem of the brain. But the more that this tree grows, the more leaves it loses, the darker it becomes, and then it begins to get lost in the haze that already exists. And that's when I start to lose control over things. I start to lose control over my anxiety because they're buried in the fog that is my mind. And because I can't quite reach them, I can't grasp them, and they build into a sort of storm, and that storm lingers. It clears eventually, it does, but it could take days, weeks for it to clear. And there's always a part of me that is equally as anxious, because I'm quite open now about my anxiety and how I deal with things. There is a part of me that then goes, well, how do other people react to my openness about my anxiety? Do they change the way they act? Because they know that actually the way that they're acting, I might perceive it in some way, and it might linger in the back of my mind, and I might be worried about it, and I might be stressed about it. I don't for a second think people do, in my heart of hearts, but because of anxiety, that is inevitably there. And it's interesting to try and overcome anxiety, because it's not a flick of a light switch and hey ho, I'm not anxious anymore. Anxiety comes in many different forms. Mine just happens to be spared on by the fact that I have an illness. There are many people that are anxious for many other reasons, be it life experiences, be it that they are just naturally a nervous, shy, anxious person, and that causes them even more stress that they then have to deal with. Many different reasons, and I can't speak for everyone. This is not me speaking on behalf of everyone of to how they come across and deal with their anxieties, what it means to them, because I can only speak for me. I can only speak from my experiences. Very much like on my social media pages, I only speak for my experiences. But are there things that we can do to get rid of it? Well, I wouldn't say we could get rid of it, but I'm certainly sure that we can suppress our anxieties. And one of the ways that I do that is, well, I distract myself. There's the closet, there's the shoving things away that I talked about at the start of this video, and then there is proactively doing things to take my mind off the stresses. Now, ultimately, that doesn't mean that the stresses are gone. The way I get rid of the stresses is by confronting the stresses, and I do that quite often when I'm ready, but not in the instant. Or I'll let what's caused the stress play out and see if what I was catastrophizing in my head is how it actually plays out. But the most positive thing I do is I distract myself in a positive way. Going to the gym, going for a walk, spending time with family and friends, doing theatre, singing and doing my In It Together playlists that I upload to YouTube, so check those out, another plug. I do a number of things to try and distract myself. Now, they work in the short term. The long-term processes to ensure that anxiety becomes a very small part of my life is a work in progress, because naturally anxiety and depression, two of the things that I am known to suffer with, sometimes come hand in hand. And if depression tends to rise a little bit, so does the anxiety. If the anxiety tends to rise, so does the depression, and I need them both to sync at the same time. Now that's an interesting one, because at the moment I am also struggling with my depression, not as bad as I have been, but I am struggling with it. And I believe I alluded to that into my last video, where I talk about depression, which can be found up here, if you've not watched it yet. So, or up here, I have to remember I'm reverse to you, so probably this side. So, yeah. I believe I talk about it in that video, which I did roughly about 2 weeks ago now. And I am yet to find a helpful way to kind of alleviate the depression and the anxiety. I'm suffering with it, as I say, quite badly at the moment. Not as bad as I have been, but it is there. And that's just because October's a minefield of emotions, in particular this year. I'm sure it'll get easier in the future, but at the minute it's a minefield of emotions. And I'm trying to deal with all those. And one of the things that is making me incredibly anxious this week is that all week, for some reason, I have felt like I want to cry. Don't worry, I'm not going to cry on camera. I have done that before, but I'm not going to do that right now. One main reason, I can't. So there is a block. Somewhere there is a block. Like a iron wall has come down in front of me, and I can't break through as much as I wish I could. So that emotional reaction to things that sometimes is just that stress building to the point where you need to release it. I can't release it. I've tried. I have tried thinking of some of the saddest memories in my life, and still nothing. The tap is running dry. That probably won't last forever, and it probably will come out in some way. I'm yet to see what that looks like. The thing is, tomorrow is the 31st of October. We then enter Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. It's more important than ever for men to talk about how we feel, because most of us have been raised not to, and sometimes not intentionally. We're just not taught the right ways to talk about our emotions. We're taught to deal with them in a very different fashion. We are taught from a very young age that we will grow to be the man of the house. We will grow to be the caretaker for our families. It's a very outdated attitude and doesn't necessarily play out in 2020. Not that much plays out in 2020, let's face it. It's 2020. But that doesn't necessarily play out anymore. But it's still ingrained in here. It's cultural. It's not something that you can just wipe out as an individual. It is societal. We have been formatted in such a way, programmed. But you can reprogram a computer. You can reprogram a human. You can reprogram this. This is your computer. We just have to know how. And one of the ways that we can learn how is by talking. So this next month, talk to each other. If you're feeling a bit anxious, if you're feeling a bit down, talk. Don't let it build up. Let people know. Not everything that you go through is a crisis. People might treat it that way because they don't understand it, but not everything is a crisis. Sometimes you just need an ear. You just need someone to talk to, and not necessarily to clear it all for you, not to provide advice or guidance, but to just listen. So talk, listen. I've said it before and I will continue to say it because I am a sucker for not talking, but talk if you can. Get things off your chest. And on that, to end the video, I am also raising money for Movember. I'll place a link in the description below to my MoSpace. I will be moving for Movember because I'm not getting rid of the beard. I look like a 12-year-old when I do, so this is staying. So I'm going to move for Movember instead. So I will be doing 20,000 steps a day for the first week. I will then be increasing to 25,000 in week 2, and I will be maintaining 25,000 steps for the remainder of November. So please donate, please get on board. If you yourselves are raising money for Movember, send me your links and I'll happily post them out. I'll happily donate. So please be kind to each other, talk. Let's get talking. Let's keep talking. Take care of yourselves, folks. Have a good weekend. Happy Halloween. Take care. I'll see you next time.